Well, just playing there for us, actually the reissue, Gibson Custom Shops reissue Carina Flying V. What I've got here is an original 1958 Flying V. We're not plugging this one in because this is experiencing a little bit of what a lot of Gibson guitars from that era suffered, and we call it tuner rot colloquially, but the plastic compound in some of these, according to the elements they're exposed to and what have you, and the way they're stored, and sometimes they just do it whatever you do, they just start to crumble and fall apart, and this is just now happening to this one, so the owner's going to put some new buttons onto those and it'll be playable again, but this one's in great shape. This is a much rarer guitar than the Les Paul, although it's not quite as heavily valued just because the Les Paul is such a desirable instrument. But they didn't make very many of these at all between 1958 and 1960. Brought this modernistic line, as this was part of, in at the end of the 1950s, which also included the Explorer, the two models, the Explorer and the Flying V, and there was talk of a Moderne, which was going to be the third model. And Gibson apparently never made one. Some people are still searching for maybe one or a prototype that they might have made. But this was just a completely space-aged guitar. You know, they were trying to go for the whole rock and roll crowd and trying to grab something new and probably trying to out-Fender a little bit again. And they went way ahead of their time with this one, much more so than with anything prior to this, but they really didn't hit the mark. This just flopped. I've heard that a lot of these guitars were used by dealers who ordered them because they couldn't sell them. They would hang them outside the front door of the store as kind of a thing to lure people in like this, you know, in the weather and stuff. So sad if that's true, but they're a very cool guitar, you know.
I think they're like a pinnacle of modern design.
Boy, they are.
Of the last century. I mean, this is just so amazing looking.
Yeah.
And you can't really play them sitting down. That's the only problem. You know, I'm wedging in. I've seen guys try to do this.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And you got to be strapped in and standing up. And
but they sound great. And they're made out of Carina, which is also called white limba. It's an African wood, and it's a close relative of mahogany. And it's a lot like mahogany, but a little bit lighter perhaps, and lighter in weight too. And both of these are.
I mean, this thing is really light, and I've got one of these at home. And when I picked it up off the wall in a music shop, and just thinking as a joke, I'll try to play it, and I was just amazed at how light it was. So I had to have it.
They sound good, you know. They look freakish, but they have a sound all their own too. And of course, they both have. Well, this has the originals and it has the reproductions, but a couple of PAF humbucking pickups and the whole thing. So, you know, an iconic, a classic rock guitar.